Hello, and welcome to Message in the Middle with Marianne. We all know that life is hard, right? It's messy, it's unpredictable, but it can be wonderful all at the same time. My hope is that we can take a deep dive into self-development topics and explore life's lessons through book clubs, conversations, and interviews. And together, we can uncover the lessons that others have already learned to help us navigate this crazy, wonderful ride called life. Hello and welcome to Message in the Middle. I'm your host, Marianne, and today, before I introduce my guest, I want to let you know that we'll be exploring the topic of mental health, and we may touch on some sensitive topics like childhood trauma or suicidal ideation. If themes like that are triggering for you, you may want to skip this episode and choose another from the vast array of episodes out there already covered, or wait till next week. It'll be completely different. That said, joining me for today's conversation is Andy Grant. Andy's been helping people for over 15 years and is known as the King of Authenticity. He's a best-selling author, speaker, transformational energy coach, suicide prevention activist, and the host of the award-winning Real Men Feel podcast. We'll get back to that. He holds certificates in positive psychology, the Awaken coaching system, Akashic records, life activation, and other leadership programs and energy work modalities. As a survivor of multiple suicide attempts, Andy knows how low human beings can sometimes feel, and he's committed to helping people realize how magnificent life is meant to be. His Amazon bestseller, Still Here: How to Succeed in Life After Failing Suicide, has helped people around the globe and includes everything he wished he knew at a younger age. Andy, thank you so much for joining me this morning.
It's my pleasure. I'm very excited to talk to you.
So before we dig in, a couple of things. I figured I'd let listeners know that we actually know each other in real life, which is unique for most of my guests. We both belong to the New England Podcasters group and have been fortunate enough to be able to meet in real life, 5-6 times, I don't know, over the last 6 months, something like that. And I'll tell the listeners that Andy was a nice guy. He is a nice guy. And at first it was just that. I was just meeting a nice guy, getting to know you. You were so generous with sharing podcast tips with me, with the group. You've been doing this a long time. Then you started to slip out some of your story. And I knew at that point I needed to get you on the show and dig in so I could learn more and so I could share more. So again, I'm so glad you're here. Thank you for being here. And then I guess the second and last thing I want to say, I promise I won't talk the whole time, is I just want to say that for some, they may wonder, well, why are you doing this episode on mental health and some of the really, tough topics when this is the Christmas season and most of my episodes will be focused on the holiday season? And to that I say, I think the holidays can be tough for people in general, but especially tough for people going through, extreme loss, depression, mental health issues, whatever spectrum of that you're on. I think this can be a really hard time. So I thought, why not do it now? Bring up some of the real issues and kind of talk about some of the lessons learned. So that's my thought process. If it makes sense, I don't know, but that's what brought us here. I want to jump in right at the beginning and start on sort of where you brought this whole thing public with your book, Still Here: How to Succeed in Life After Failing Suicide. I think you wrote that back in 2015. And that's 9 years ago, which, goes by in a blink, but yet it's a long time too. And I know recently, as recent as 5-6 months ago, you've shared that you've been having some of those same thoughts, going through some of those same feelings again. And I know you're grappling with, why does this seem to be a cyclical thing? Why does this keep reoccurring in your life? And I'm just curious if you could share a little bit about that journey and where you are right now in your mindset around why does this keep happening?
So when I was growing up, I was a very empathic kid, and really other people's emotions came through me and expressed through me. Like I can remember being on a bus in third grade, first day of school, and I'm sitting next to my best friend and going to the school I already know, and I start bawling. And I remember thinking, like, why am I crying? What's going? Like there was no emotions in me for it, and I really thought I was going crazy. And it continued for a while, but I had never heard of an empath. That wasn't the thing when I was growing up.
Right.
And so it wasn't until I was an adult that I realized that what had been happening. So I thought I was broken, that I was flawed. I thought I was just so distorted. And there are 2 generations of death by suicide in my family before me. So there was a lot, as I learned that, like, oh, well, this is my path. This is what I'm supposed to do somehow. That's why it keeps coming back. So years of attempting, failing, realizing I was failing because I was really meant to be here. And once I accepted that helped a lot. But through my adulthood, doing a lot of energy work, a lot of spiritual work, a lot of personal growth. I did not have any such beliefs growing up. I remember at 8 years old, I would call myself an atheist, thinking because I didn't believe in anything, that's the word of the day. And, I didn't know what anything meant, but I thought I knew stuff. So doctors would always tell me it was brain chemistry, which made me feel hopeless and helpless. Like, oh, I'm defective.
Yeah.
Then I'll check out. As I grew up and realized a lot of the suicidal ideation wasn't even mine. Again, it was picking up from others, from the world. The depression of the world would be felt and expressed through me. And so the more growth, the more awareness I have. One of the best tools that helped me was meditation when I got into that. But why it comes back as an adult, I take big steps forward in my spiritual path and my spiritual growth. And my resistance is my oldest thoughts. It truly is that oldest neurological rut in my brain of depression. And let's fall into that. So when things get hard, one of my first thoughts, let's give up. This is not worth it.
Yeah.
The last time this happened, it lasted a year. I had a year of apathy, depression, and it's like, I know I'm not going to die by my own hand, but I'll sit with it. I did not seek help. I stopped doing all the positive things I do. I have daily rituals that keep me thriving. I have felt awesome for like the last 7 months, every single day, but I stopped doing that. I go, it doesn't work. See, it's like, I'll go years feeling fine. Something will come back and I'll say, see, here's the truth. And I stop doing all the things that help me.
Yeah.
And it makes it last longer. It makes it worse. What I realized why this past episode lasted a year, I wanted some huge divine light presence to go, Andy, you're supposed to be here. Finally, I got a quiet, isn't being here proof enough? Why do you need a big show again? Because when I was like 19 years old, after making another attempt on my life, using a means that had already not worked for me, I was like, what am I? I was in the fetal position. I'm bawling. I'm like, what? I can't even die right. Like, what? Why I'm so messed up. I can't live. I can't die. I'm afraid of everything. And for the first time, I had an out-of-body experience or a higher self, God. I felt another presence. I heard a voice that wasn't my old critic. And it was, if you share your story, it will all be worth it. And I was like, oh my God, but like, what does that mean? But that's where it began, that I finally accepted I wasn't just this meat suit. I wasn't just random bad chemicals like doctors told me. There was a lot more to me and a lot more to life. And as I leaned into that, life just kept getting better and better. Every decade of my life has been better than the prior decade. I remember growing up, people saying, oh, once you're 30, it's all downhill. Then, once it's 40, it's all downhill.
No
I'm
way.
Like, yeah, I don't see that at all.
Yeah.
My 20s were better than my teens. My 30s blew away my 20s. My 40s blew away my 30s. And now I'm in my 50s. And even with that year of feeling horrible, everything outside of that has been excellent. And I got gifts and insights. And I really feel like I'll never do that again, because it was just this test of how long can I go? It was like, how long can I go to see if I really should be dead? Or how long can I go before something really proves to me that I'm supposed to be here? And it was all my choice. I just sat in this pattern, right? So when I was finally sick of feeling sick and tired, I got back into the rituals that helped me every day. And my rebound was fast and furious and potent, and it really hasn't stopped.
I've heard you talk about this as an addiction, or being like an addiction at times. And I really resonated with that, because in that same conversation, I think you were talking about, sometimes we get all in and then all out. So all these tools and these methodologies that you've used to kind of keep you out of that space, keep your headspace clear, something triggers you to let go of that and to leave it behind. And then you start slowly falling back to those well-worn patterns. And it does make me think of addiction for me. And the thing we talk about a lot here, because a lot of women deal with it, is trying to get healthier, trying to lose weight, trying to create a healthy lifestyle, whatever you want to call it. And often we have those same patterns. It's all in. You go into the gym, you're meal planning, you're exercising, and then for some reason, something happens and you get off track and you let go of everything that was working for you. Not just one thing, but everything. The good news is once you start to get a little bit more enlightened and really self-aware and tune in, it's exactly what you said. You can jump back in again quickly. And yes, the rebound is much quicker. Is that what you meant by it feels like an addiction, that pattern, or was there something else to it?
No, so even the chemicals of addiction are really there. Like every thought process makes its own chemical stew in your brain.
Yeah.
So I believe, no, I was addicted to the feelings of depression and being taken care of and giving up. Even when your comfort zone is horribly uncomfortable, it's still your comfort zone.
Yes.
So depression, being dark, giving up on things was like my weird safe place.
Yeah.
It was like this warm, comfortable quilt of feeling freaking horrible was somehow where a part of me liked to be.
Yes. It's what you knew best. We talk about that sometimes because our comfort zone isn't always comfortable. And yet we stay there because it's what we know.
Yeah.
And it's hard to get out of that. It's hard to break out of that pattern.
Like most of the time, if I'm doing something goes wrong, and it doesn't even show up anymore, but like it used to be like, you should just kill yourself. And on good times, I could just laugh at that, like, go away, you. What are you? You're an idiot. Like, or I tried that. It didn't work, you know?
Yeah,
and if when I can bring levity to whatever mood I'm in, I know it's not an issue. But when I choose to give up, when I choose to say, all right, I'm just going to withdraw, I'm going to let life happen to me and see where it goes.
Mm-hmm.
And again, for that year, it went nowhere. But I work from home. So it was easy. I was going 4 weeks without leaving the house. Like it just didn't matter. It was like, all right, how low can I go? How isolated can I be? I didn't do my podcast stopped for a full year. And it was all this horrible experiment with myself. And again, I don't think it would ever happen again. But, I've given people permission too. I've told friends, when people reach out to me, one of the lies I'll tell myself is nobody really cares about me. I don't really have friends. Yeah, I have thousands of people on social media. So what? None of them are actually my friends.
Yeah.
So when friends would email or text, it was easy to ignore. And I did ignore it. So I've told my friends, if you see me go dark, show up at my house because I can't ignore that. And that so once I get like evidence that my thoughts are wrong, it's easy for me to jump back into the evidence and start doing the positive things again. But there's a part of me that will shut it all down and make the world prove to me that I'm worthy of being here again.
I was going to ask what we can tell people to do. How do you help? Listen, we all know we have people in our lives that have these same kind of issues and thoughts and patterns. And sometimes it's even harder for them during the holidays. But I feel like sometimes it's tricky knowing how to help them, knowing what to say. I think sometimes you just don't know, like, are you really helping them? Are you, pushing the wrong buttons? It gets like you don't know what to do. So that was one of my questions. So you're saying for you, it's show up. Be present, like out loud present.
The easy ways to connect with someone are also the easy ways to ignore someone. I got a handwritten letter once from the wife of one of my best friends saying, all your buddies are really worried about you. Now, they didn't tell me that, but even just saying that now, I'm getting choked up.
Yeah.
So it's that honest, authentic, it's something post through my wall of illusions says, no, I've gotten emails from Real Men Feel listeners around the world going, I know your history. I see you haven't done something in months. Are you okay? I'm like, wow. Like I can't. All right. This is more than just a follower. This is someone that is, how are you?
Yeah.
But again, in person, I can't ignore it. And it breaks through that. And like when I was growing up, we didn't have cell phones and social media, and every friend visit was a pop-in, like, oh, someone at the door. Whoa, who's this? And that's gone. Right. In my life anyway.
Yeah. No, same. Yes.
Yeah. So if you're concerned about someone, show up. That's
a great piece of feedback for people. Because I think we sometimes feel like we don't want to interfere, or maybe they'll be too down and they won't want to, I don't know. I think it feels weird, right?
If you know someone's down, they're not going to want to do anything. Force it. Just show up. I'm concerned. I just want to make sure you're breathing. You are great. Can I give you a hug? Super. Mind if I hang out and sit? Want to watch TV together? Like, it doesn't mean show up and interrogate somebody. Yeah. Right. Just be there. Right. Your presence is so strong and powerful. Yeah. Human contact with again, it doesn't, you're not playing therapist. You're not there to save their life. You're there to say, how are you? Like, I care about you. So I showed up here.
Yeah. I love that clarity. And I love the distinction between showing up and interrogating somebody and showing up just to show them that you care. I want to circle back to something you said at the beginning. So you mentioned using meditation. I know you're, big on gratitude. And for many people, especially in the US, that comes into play a lot around the holidays, especially US Thanksgiving, right? It's a time where people are actually called out to say what they're thankful for. So where does gratitude fit in for you in keeping yourself in a better space?
When I'm in a good space, I have a gratitude practice of writing what I'm grateful for, morning and night. So I start and end each day. It's the first thing I let go of when I'm choosing to downward spiral, but it's also the first thing I come back to. Mm-hmm. Like this most recent dark episode ended as I started just writing 3 things I was grateful for. Wow. And my wife was begging me to do this for months. Like, no, not gonna, no. And then finally, again, like most men, it's got to be my idea. It's going to be my timeline. And unfortunately, that's just the way it is. But yeah, gratitude is super, super powerful. Journaling overall, especially gratitude journaling, was something therapists had told me to do for at least 12 years. And I thought it meant having a My Little Princess diary and bedazzled pen. And it was like, oh, this is so not masculine, so not me. But like most things, when I did it, I felt relief. And I was like, wow, this works. And I have a closet full of gratitude journals going back to 2008.
Wow.
Like I've kept them all. I don't know what to do. Yeah.
I love that.
I rarely look back at them, but I'm like, I feel like I can't, I can't throw this away, can
I?
Yeah.
So when you say that, journaling, let's talk about that for a second. What are you writing? Are you like sitting down and writing paragraphs and pages of how you're feeling? Or are you simply like writing a couple of simple ideas? Because I do think people get hung up in like, oh, I don't know if I can do this. It's so hard and it's going to be a lot of effort.
So I have a rather elaborate journaling practice now, but it didn't start that way. Let it expand over time. So I write down 3 things I'm grateful for in the morning, 3 things I'm grateful for at night. Once I'm hitting 3, I'm like, oh, let's make it 5. Oh, let's make it 10. So set an achievable goal first. Yeah. And I'm grateful for my body. Sometimes I'm grateful I'm alive, right? It doesn't have to be specific manifest things like, oh, I love my car. I love, but and if you find yourself repeating like, oh, I should be grateful for the same thing every day. Like, sure you can. If you're really the top of mind things you're grateful for can repeat and be the same thing. But the more you write it down, the more your mind is now looking for things to write down. So once you start practicing gratitude, you experience more to be grateful for.
Yeah.
All energy has momentum. All energy is contagious. And gratitude is the most powerful thing to attract more things to be grateful for. What you appreciate appreciates.
Yes. And I think part of that is the trick of you start training your mind to notice the little things. I mean, listen, for years, I didn't notice any of these things. Now I might just walk out my front door and I'll notice one little bloom of a flower that's still here because the weather's been so crazy out here in the Northeast. And it'll catch my attention and I'm grateful for it. What a pretty thing to see on a glum rainy day or whatever. But life wasn't always like that. I didn't notice the hummingbird that just happened to fly by. So I think it's important, like you said, it doesn't have to be these big, huge things that you're trying to manifest. It can be thanks for the water that came out of my faucet this morning if you can't think of anything else.
Yeah, I'll truly write down, I found a quarter in the street today. Woohoo! There's nothing too small. There's nothing too big, except if we put this mental obstacle of, well, that's not worthy enough, or I don't really grateful for that. Yeah. And even if you feel such resistance to this, I even invite you, lie. Like, if I was grateful for something, it would be this. And if it exists or not, great. But pretend like I'm so grateful. Like I've even done this as a journaling prompt. I'm so grateful that I feel like shit today, and see what comes up after that.
I've never heard anybody say that, but as you say it, I think about it. You can be grateful for that because guess what? The fact that you're here and feel like shit means you're not dead. You're here. That's
what I say. Yeah. And especially when I speak live and impromptu, I swear a lot because sometimes that's just how I can't explain how I felt back in the day, except with swears. And I would say, if my language offends you, good, because it means you're alive.
That, and it's not your tribe. It's not the right people. So obviously you're big on mental health awareness and an advocate for getting men to, you've started a Real Men Feel movement, you have the podcast, all of that. I'm so curious about how you decided. I mean, was it that messaging, that voice you heard to become so vulnerable and to tell your story? It's not easy. I mean, it's just not an easy thing to let your mess become your message. One of my favorite sayings. How did you get so in ease of that?
I find that action cures fear. So the more videos I do them, and I have found I can't be too vulnerable. Like there's one Real Men Feel episode I've decided, like I was depressed, I was suicidal. Like, what if I dared speak here? And it's a solo show for me. I never listened to it. I just posted it and it got amazing feedback. And I will never listen to it. Like I don't want to, but I was like, all right, somehow sharing me at the bottom of my pit of despair served people.
Yes.
And that's what I found. Like I can't be too vulnerable. Now everyone might like be like this, but be vulnerable where you feel safe, where you'd be well received, right? And I had the great pleasure of meeting Louise Hay years ago, and she had a Movers and Shakers conference in Boston. And again, I didn't know what I was doing, but I was like, I was called to this. I went there, and there was a contest to make a video, and other people like, you've got to make a video. I'm like, I didn't. So it was the last day due. Finally, other people there, people that have entered this contest are like encouraging me to enter this contest. So I told a bit of my story. I got teary in it, and I just posted it. And I didn't win the award, but I got that Louise Hay watch. I got someone else wrote to me saying, Louise, watch this. She says, you're amazing and powerful. Don't stop making videos.
Wow.
All
There's
right.
your sign. There's your sign.
Yeah. And it was one of many. But, the thought in my head that I feared the most from going public was just like, oh, you're so gay. You're not even a man. You're just stop being a pussy. All this like grade school playground stuff was the voice that kept me from being seen.
Yeah.
And now that when a comment like that shows up, I laugh.
Yeah.
I'm like, that's what kept me quiet. Like, that's hilarious. Most recently, I did a short video on YouTube about, men have the right and the need to cry. Mm-hmm. And someone just wrote, you're so gay. I was like, well, better luck. Hope you expand out of that. But I don't bother, I don't take it personally. I don't bother fight and troll people. It made me laugh. And then I feel sorry for the person that wrote it.
I love that you've found such ease and power in it. And I don't mean power in a bad sense, but it is powerful to share your story and validate other people's feelings and let people know they're not alone in their journey. I mean, that's literally why I started this in my Facebook group, because honestly, I feel like, and we say this, we joke about this, as different as we all are, we're all the same. We're all the same, just our own little version.
Yeah. There's always, the world is full of people going through exactly what you're going through right now. Yeah. It's also full of people that have made it to the other side of that and are feeling way better.
Yes.
So yeah, the more we share, the more you realize you resonate with people. And, if this bald doofus can survive, then I can too, right?
Yeah. I always use the fast past reference, and people sometimes don't know what I mean by that. But again, back to part why I did the group and want to do the podcast is I feel like sharing our stories with people gives them a fast pass too. Maybe they don't have to learn all the same hard lessons that we learned the hard and long way. Maybe just one little thing will help them skip a step or skip a little bit of pain. So why not give everyone the fast pass when we have the knowledge, right?
Yeah, I think I wrote something similar in my book. Like, I don't recommend my path. Nobody should have to make multiple attempts on their life to prove to themselves that they're meant to be alive.
Yeah.
Like, I don't recommend that, but I do recommend the things that help me the most to stay alive.
Absolutely. Well, before we get off the topic of the podcast and Real Men Feel, I have to go and tell everybody and gush over the fact that you won that silver award. So you guys, he won a silver award in a category with Mel Robbins. I mean, she won gold. He won silver. This is like huge stuff. How does that feel?
Oh, it feels amazing. It still feels hard to believe. When I got the email that I was a finalist, I thought, oh, this is one of the things that everybody that enters is a finalist. And then I saw, oh no, there are only like 5 finalists. Yeah. And I don't listen to many podcasts, but it was Anderson Cooper, Trevor Noah, Mel Robbins, and Oprah. I'm like, oh my God, this is real. So the gold awards went to Mel in my most inspirational podcast award. It went to Mel Robbins, and then I was second. I got the silver. They do a bronze, silver, and gold award. And yeah, I was floored. It still blows me away. Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
amazing.
That filled my gratitude journal for a while and every
It
day.
should for
Yeah,
weeks and months
to be a finalist, to be picked, to be, wow, this is fun. And the people I'm meeting. And yeah, yeah. And even podcasting has opened up a whole world of people. And I'm so glad I've done that. And I have friends that we have to think and realize, oh my God, you were a guest on a show. That's how we first met. And we get together in real life and do things. And yeah.
Yeah. It makes me think though. So someone listening could easily say, I don't get it. This guy, I mean, he won an award in, a category with Mel and Oprah and all the big guys. He has this, what might look like a charmed life to some people. You've been married for over 20 years, maybe over 25.
Yeah, 26 years.
Okay. And you are fortunate enough to be able to go to these wonderful destinations. Like you've traveled around and you're going to another trip really soon. I don't know if I should give it away, but I was going to say where you go, but these really big trips. And on paper, that looks like a very charmed, magical life. But yet you still sometimes battle with the depression. I think that's hard for people to get their head around.
I don't know what comes first, but I find that suicidal people like me, we are very black and white in our thinking. It's all or nothing. So very black and white thinking, it's all or nothing. So when I was depressed, I thought everybody that felt good would just high. I thought everybody was normal, was like Ned Flanders. Everything's great. Okay, Dokley, here we go. And I thought, well, man, I'm not that. So life is up and down. But what I found is I have higher highs and higher lows. So even this year of depression and apathy, it was never as gross feeling as it had been years before, right? It was a year of me waiting to feel suicidal. It was like I was daring myself to take action, but it wasn't there.
That's so interesting.
So it was me again in that oldest neurological rut in my brain, finding out, oh, this pathway still exists, but it's not going anywhere anymore. So am I willing to stop looking for it? Yeah, when I finally was, that's how it ended. I have always had a charmed, magical life. I just didn't always accept, realize it, or even want it.
I hate that for you, but I love that explanation. And I think it's so important for people to understand. I mean, we all say it all the time. What you see on social media, what you see on paper, it's not the whole story, and you never know what people are dealing with. Every store you walk into, I guarantee you every person in that store has something, some baggage, if you will, or some trauma or something they're dealing with. It doesn't always show up.
I have been on welfare and food stamps, and I have been a multimillionaire. I could be depressed and I could be joyous in both those financial extremes.
That reinforces two things loud and clear. And the first is material possessions really do not indicate happiness or wellness. And the second is you really do not know what people's mental state is just by what you can see on the outside. Such a great reminder. Thank you for that. So there's two things I want to talk about before we wrap up. The first thing is I want to know what the best piece of advice you've ever gotten is.
Share yourself. Like it goes, growing up, what I thought made me weak, my vulnerability, my emotionality, my expressiveness, my authenticity, those were always superpowers.
Yeah.
But I didn't realize it. It wasn't until I could embrace that. You introduced me as the king of authenticity. That name was given to me in like 2012 by my first business coach. And I was like, what am I doing with that? What's authentic? Are people looking for authenticity? What does it even mean? So it wasn't until like 2 years ago, I was like, I got it. And I actually own a crown. It's behind me. And I had a little ceremony for myself. I am the king of authenticity.
Love that.
So it's fun. Share yourself. Action cures fear, as I said, but sharing yourself, leaning into yourself, being vulnerable, let the feedback of life, not individual trolls, but let life mirror back to you what's your best next step. Like what else to share? What's resonating with people? We are social creatures. We are divine creatures. We are just having physical experiences. And the more physical experiences we can have, the better. Like I believe our souls are here to experience joy, and our souls love new experiences. So lean into some, whatever you're called to, do it. But yeah, to get clearer, the best advice I ever got was share myself.
I love that. There was so much in there because it's share yourself. It's lean in and let the journey figure out what the next step is after. It's take one step. I always say that, take one step, because we often get hung up in the, I don't know the whole plan. Where's this going to lead me? What is the outcome going to be? Yada, yada, yada. Just take a step. Yeah. Just take a step, and wherever it goes, it goes. Don't be tied to the ending.
Like that our ego, to make us stay in our shitty feeling comfort zone, the ego will go, here's the big thing you want. But look, it's so far away. You know how to get there. But you do know how to like read a book about that subject, listen to a podcast about that subject, right?
Yeah.
Start simple and small. And before you realize it, those simple, small steps are bigger and bigger.
Yes.
But they don't seem that way to you anymore.
Yeah. And you start getting clarity around where you fit best. So I love that. All right, I'm going to go completely off topic, you guys, just because I have him in front of me and I have to ask the question. I don't know if you know where I'm going, but Akashic Records. First of all, am I saying it correctly?
I say Akashic.
Akashic. I never heard of it until you. I want to know a little bit. Just give me like a high level. Give us a high level because you did all of these readings last weekend and I'm just interested in what it is.
So I had first heard of the Akashic Records. I swear it was like on that old show In Search Of with Leonard Nimoy as a kid. So I loved that esoteric, occultish stuff and mysticism. So I'd heard of the Akashic Records and I always was interested in it. And one time I was I think I was teaching a class on loving yourself for men. And I saw the next weekend at this location, there was an Akashic Records reading course. I'm like, oh my God. I'm like, I'm coming back. I'm doing this. And the Akashic is a Sanskrit word for primal substance. So if anyone is familiar enough with quantum physics, know there's the field of infinite possibilities. There's the quantum field where it's things, your thoughts are just energy waves. They haven't been manifest yet. I find that's also what the Akashic Records are like. It's your soul's encyclopedia. Everything you've ever done is recorded there. And it's really a lot. So our records are being, when we go to sleep, our records get updated each night with what we've done that day.
Wow.
And there are truly beings that have light that run and operate the records, but guides, angels, loved ones that have crossed over, they're all kind of there. When I open someone's records, it's like I'm standing in the center of sometimes an arena full of supportive beings. Sometimes it's like they're doing the wave or somebody like they're all applauding, like if someone's doing some great things. And sometimes like a singular voice comes forward. That's usually what tells me it's like a loved one that's crossed over. Other times it's just this chorus unison of advice, input, insight. And I'm just the mouthpiece. And I'm just saying everything I can and describing what I'm seeing. And usually it's very validating for the person. Healings show up. But by knowing everything you've ever done, it helps you make concrete steps and decisions about what to do now. So a lot of people will book a session. They want to, was I ever in Egypt? Was I in Napoleon? All these, like, they don't care. Like say what I'm really bothered by being short. Oh, okay. What's that? Oh, that's because you were Napoleon. And yeah, you had a problem with being short and you're just going to deal with it. Right. Whatever it might be. And I've been doing this, I think since like 2012 or 13. It's one of my favorite when in the times of depression and not wanting to do anything, I thought I shut down my whole calendar. Every now and then some stranger will book an Akashic reading. And no matter what mood I'm in, those records open. I feel joy. So much of the message for them, I know, oh, this is meant for me too. There's synchronicity here. But I would go, nope, not doing it anyway.
How do you tap it? Like, are there cards? Like what, how do you do that? How do you open the records? Is there like a door? I'm making a joke, but I don't know.
No, I use a prayer. So I learned from Linda Howe, and she has a book called How to Read the Akashic Records. And it explains exactly how to do it. What I recommend for people, so I did it in a live workshop. And why I recommend that for people is because you immediately start doing it.
Yeah.
And you read someone's, when I opened my records, it was like, well, hello, welcome back. You've been here before. You just didn't realize it. And what I like about the prayer process, it gives you a pathway. I know I'm in the records now, and now I'm out. So you open it, you close it. It's not something just open and hang out with for forever. You don't spend all day there because they want to help you. So in my experience, the more specific a question you have, the more specific an answer will come.
And they're not questions like, I don't know, will I get a new job? Or will my husband or boyfriend, blah, 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 whatever. The typical questions people ask for tarot cards. Yeah. It's not that. It's more.
Well, they can. It's more so that your words carry energy. And oftentimes your records will ask you questions to help you get clarity too. It's almost like a spiritual therapy session. There's a lot of talk going back and forth. And then sometimes it's just energy. I've had times, there'll be a healing and they'll just guide through this like column of light healing and dissolve things and stuff. And it's amazing. But no matter what mood I'm in the records, they always work and it's always joy. It's never bad information for people. The harshest the records have ever been, I've been with people that I've like talked to repeatedly. And if they're given advice and they still don't do it, the records get like stricter, like sterner. Like it's not, usually it's like, it's very light and fun, and it's not a fortune telling device. If people ask like, can I do this? Can I do that? And it's just, well, yeah, if you want to, like, yeah, sure. You can do whatever you want. Like, it's not, it's not as if it's a scoreboard some of the things like your life, the records do have your future in them, but we as human beings, we can't access that part of it. And it's because we have free will. The universe,
Right.
God, your higher self, wants you to do the things you're meant to because you choose to. Not because some Andy Grant guy said, oh, you should go to veterinary school, whatever it might be, right? So there'll be guidance, there'll be insight. One of the favorite things I like is if people like, I'm interested in these 3 different things.
Yeah.
One of them will always have more energy, more information than the others. And that's what tells me and them that that's the way to go.
Wow. So cool. You are just full of information and passion about these topics. I just so appreciate you sharing some of this and truly sharing your story. I mean, again, back to the rest of the stuff. The journey that you've been on is remarkable, but your ability to be so vulnerable, so transparent and authentic with people, that's the gift. It really is the gift. So thank you for that.
Yeah. And again, if anyone has that and doubts it, like I did not see it as a gift for decades. So, what we struggle most with is so often what we need to learn and overcome so that we can share that with other people.
So much wisdom here, guys. If you haven't listened to Real Men Feel, check it out. You don't have to be a guy to love it. I think it's a great podcast for everyone. So check it out if you want to tap into some real honest, raw feelings and emotions and hear how people navigate through it. So thank you so much for taking the time today.
It's my pleasure. Great to talk to you, Marianne.
Oh, thank you, Andy, but definitely all my pleasure. And guys, if anybody out there is struggling with their own mental health issues, talk to someone if you can. Employ some of the same kind of techniques that Andy talked about to keep his mental health space well. And tell your friends that you can trust so they know when to reach in and try to connect with you when you need it most. Thank you for listening to this episode of Message in the Middle with Marianne. If you enjoyed the podcast, please take a minute to share it and write a review as it helps bring new listeners to our audience. If you'd like to keep the conversation going between episodes, please join us at Facebook group Message in the Middle with Marianne.